Alright, it's time for notation review part 2. We're going to start with 7 and see how far we can get with this. This will be the stuff off of chapter 7. And question number 7 says, find every value that makes the expression undefined. So I am looking at 9 over x squared minus 7x plus 12. And what would make an expression undefined is when the denominator is equal to 0. So I'm going to take only the denominator, set it equal to 0, and factor and solve. To factor, I go 1 times 12 is positive 12. I want the factors of 12 that give me negative 7. The factors of 12 are 1, didn't read my signs. The signs are the same. They are both negative. So I have negative 1 times negative 12, which gives me negative 13 when added. I have negative 2 and negative 6, which give me negative 8 when added. And then I have negative 3 and negative 4, which give me the negative 7 that I wanted when I add them. Since the leading coefficient is 1, what I have over here is what I get over here. X minus 3, x minus 4 equals 0. X minus 3 equals 0. So when x is equal to positive 3, my denominator becomes 0, and the fraction becomes undefined. When I add 4 to both sides, I get x equal 4, and that is telling me when the denominator becomes, or when x becomes 4, the denominator becomes 0, and the fraction becomes undefined. Question 8. X squared minus 12x plus 27 over x squared minus 2x minus 63. And then I want to multiply to that x squared minus 49 over x squared minus 9. I have to factor each of the pieces. I can multiply and then reduce, or I can reduce and then multiply. With these numbers, it's usually easier to reduce and then do my multiplication. So I'm going to look at the first one. 1 times 27 is 27. Reading the signs, they are both negative, and I want the factors of 27 that when added together give me negative 12. Well, I have negative 1 and negative 27 when added together give me negative 28. And I have negative 3 and negative 9. And when those are added together, I get the negative 12 that I was expecting. So, my leading coefficient is 1. What I see over here is what I get over here. For the denominator here, I'm going to look at the factors of negative 63. Now, reading the signs carefully, they are different, and the biggest of the factors is negatives. So I'm going to have 1 times negative 63. And when I get finished, I'm hoping for a negative 2. Well, that gives me a negative 62. 2 won't go. 3 times negative 21. When subtracted, I am left with negative 19. And I've got 4 won't go, 5 won't go, 6 is not going to go, 7 will go, negative 9 times. Ooh, that gives me the negative 2 I was hoping for, right? And that gives me x plus 7, x minus 9. Do you remember how to factor x squared minus 49? They're going to have the same, it's going to be x minus 7, x plus 7. So when I get to x squared minus 9, I'm going to have x plus 3, x minus 3. Now that I have everything factored, I'm going to start with the first one in the numerator and work my way across the numerator and see if there's anything I can reduce out. I've got an x minus 3 in the numerator. Oh, I have one in the denominator. I can divide them out or cancel them out. I have an x minus 9 in the numerator. I have 1 in the denominator. I don't have an x minus 7 in my denominator, but I have an x plus 7 in my denominator. So, the only thing that I have left here is x minus 7 and x plus 3. And you know my math lab will count it wrong if you put in those parentheses, right? Okay. All right. Are we ready for number 9? Number 9 says I have 125 x to the 7th y to the 3rd over 6x squared y to the 4th divided by negative 3x y squared over 25 x squared y to the 3rd. Before I can do anything, I have to use the reciprocal on the second one, right? So I've got 125 x to the 7th y to the 3rd. Now, if this had something where I had to factor, I would go ahead and factor while I'm rewriting this thing. I change this to multiplication. The minute you use your reciprocal, please change that to multiplication. It helps me when I'm looking over your shoulder trying to help you out. Helps me figure out what you're doing. I've had a couple of students this week who have leave it as division and still go ahead and use the reciprocal. All right, everything's factored. Here we go. Maybe here we go. There. 125. Is there anything in the denominator that will divide into 125? No. Is there any x's in the denominator? Well, I have 2 of them right here. And are there any y's in the denominator? And here I have y's over each other, but the numerator's power is smaller than the denominator's. I'm going to subtract that from the denominator. Then we go over to the 25. Nothing will divide it. I'm going to reduce that x and that y. And here's what I have left. And I know I'm going to have some more reduction that I can do. But here's what I have left so far. 125 x to the 5th times negative 25 x y over 6 y squared and a 3. Oop, yeah, I've got the negative. Putting the x's on the 125 times 25. That gives me 3,125. X to the 6th y. Okay, I can do math. There we go. X to the 6th y over 18y. The y's cancel, giving me 3,125 x to the 6th over 18. And that would be my answer for that one. My next question is number 10, which is my subtraction question. I get t plus 2 over t plus 3 and 2t minus 1 over t plus 4. Now notice there's no equal sign. I can't do away with my fractions. I'm going to have to come up with my common denominator. My common denominator for this is the t plus 3 and the t plus 4. Now, this one had a t plus 3 in its denominator. It needed me to multiply by the t plus 4 to come up with the common denominator. So I have to multiply my numerator times t plus 4 also. When I FOIL this out, I get t squared plus 4t plus 2t plus 8. This one had the t plus 4. It needed the t plus 3. When I FOIL this out, I get 2t squared plus 6t minus 1t minus 3, which gives me t squared plus 6t plus 8 minus the quantity of the second numerator. Let me go ahead and collect like terms before I distribute the negative sign. So that's going to give me 2t squared plus 5t minus 3. Distributing the negative sign through, I get t squared plus 6t plus 8 minus 2t squared minus 5t plus 3. Then combining all of the like terms, I get negative t squared plus t plus 11 over t plus 3, t minus 4, t plus 4. Okay, I'm looking at the 11 and its prime. There are no factors of 11 that when added or subtracted will ever give me 1. So I know that the numerator is completely factored, and that is my answer. But I do have to go in and check that and make sure that I have looked for any reduction. Okay? All right. Maybe I can get this last one in. Number 11 is 8 over 4x minus 1 plus x over 1 minus 4x. There's a couple of ways of doing this. You have to realize that my 4x minus 1 and this one are kind of backwards, but if I tried to turn them around, it would be negative 4x plus 1. So I need to get that negative sign out of this one so that they look the same. Now I believe in most of the classes I've just made you come up with a common denominator. Since this one has a negative 1 in it, then this one needs a negative 1 in it. So the common denominator for this is negative 1 times, well, maybe, negative 1 times 4x minus 1. Okay, this one needed to be multiplied by a negative 1, so this needs to be multiplied by a negative 1, giving me negative 8. This one had all of its parts, so it's x. So I get negative 8 plus x as my numerator, and I get negative 1 times 4x minus 1. My math lab is going to make you factor this thing out and call it this. So that you get 8 minus x over 4x minus 1.